All right, you have one last topic. This is an examinable topic. You have a test in it, and in the test you get no notes, no calculator, and this will also be in the exam. There's two halves to this. The first half of this topic is about critical paths. So let's think all projects can be broken down into smaller separate tasks. Some of those tasks can be done independently, while others are dependent on finishing other tasks. And what we do in critical path analysis is to determine the order of tasks in a project and also the tasks that are critical, the ones that must be completed for the overall project to be done. Someone come in, can you open it? Yeah. So we start off with the idea of precedence tables, and every year we get into an argument about how you make tea. So again, it'll happen again. But we're just using it for argument's sake because I'm hoping everyone has made a cup of tea before. A precedence table is organizing the tasks within a project into columns with a letter label, time duration, and the prerequisites. What is a prerequisite? It's tasks that you need to complete immediately before other ones. It's kind of better to see how this works with an example. So please consider the project below of making a cup of tea that I've broken down into an arbitrary set of 7 tasks. So getting cups is task A, putting tea bags in the cups is task B, filling the kettle with water, C, etc. Independent tasks don't need anything completed before them, so have no prerequisites. Can anyone identify out of these tasks here, I think there's 7 of them, which ones can I do without one of these other tasks being done first? Sorry? Fill the kettle, I'd agree. Out of these tasks that I've arbitrarily broken it down into, I don't need to do anything before filling the kettle. What else? There's another one that I believe you don't need a direct prerequisite yet. Getting the cups. I believe out of these tasks, those 2, they don't need anything to happen before to be done. Now let's work through the prerequisites. If I want to put the tea bags in the cups, what should I have done first? I should have got the cups in the first place. So what is a prerequisite of B? A prerequisite of it is A. Boiling the water in the kettle. What should I have done before boiling the water in the kettle to be able to do it? Fill the kettle with water. So the prerequisite of D is C. What should I have done immediately before pouring the boiling water in the cups? Boil the water, D. I agree. Anything else? C was about filling the kettle with water. Like, wouldn't I have put the tea bags in the cups before that? So I believe the prerequisites to pouring the boiling water in the cups is both B and D. What about adding milk and sugar to the cups? What do I have to do immediately before those? It's semi in order here. If I want to put milk and sugar in the cups, should I have had boiling water in there? Yeah. So E. And what do I need immediately before stirring the tea? Should I have had the milk and sugar in there? Each year people make faces like that. You're never deciding on the order that someone needs to do something. I'm just using this as an example, okay? Don't worry that you disagree with the order that I've made a cup of tea. We're just using it for example's sake. So don't stress about that, okay? Please note the prerequisites column only shows the immediate prerequisites. If A is a prerequisite of B and B is a prerequisite of E, then we know that A is a prerequisite of E. We just don't write it, okay? So these letters here are just the ones, the previous step, right? So all I'd like you to do, could you get a version of this table down, please? Go. And just to ease your concern, I've never seen them ask you to decide the order of a project. Because do you agree, something like that, if SACE was to ask you something like that, would it be very opinionated?
Yes.
They wouldn't be able to have one set answer, okay? We just need an example here so that we can show filling of a table, all right? So just copy that table down for now. What we need to get to is the spider webs. So your questions will generally start with the table, okay? You don't need to decide this order. The idea of this is to show what was the project. Making a cup of tea. Has it been broken into a number of tasks? Yes? Is there a general set of steps that have to be done in order? That's the idea of this, okay? What you have to be able to do is draw precedence networks. So what is a precedence network? This might look familiar to people that did general maths last year. It's a type of graph that we use to visualize a project. So it's a graph of this. This is what you need to be able to do. It's always best to draw a precedence network using a precedence table. Can you get these notes down, please? What is a precedence network made of? It's made of arrows. These represent tasks in the project, and they always have a direction. The line end of the arrow, so here, that's the start of the task. The arrow end here is the end of the task. Nodes are dots or ovals. You put them at the start and end of task arrows. Letters A, B, and C, etc. They're written alongside arrows to identify which task is which. And any numbers on a precedence network indicate the duration of the task. So give you some time to get that down, to know what a network is made up of. Haven't even drawn them yet. So when you're drawing networks, it's made up of arrows. They always have to have an arrowhead at the start and end of the arrows is always a dot for now. They'll transition to ovals eventually. Then each arrow has a letter and a number associated with it. Oh, they're going. Oh, praise the Lord. Yeah, another minute and then we'll show how to draw these networks because that's the actual skill you need. This is just background for now. All right now that's all terminology. I haven't actually shown you how to do anything yet. This is where you actually have to start doing stuff. Does anyone here do programming? What is an algorithm? series of tasks that you do in a particular order. So the closest thing to a set of steps that I can give you is an algorithm like this. How do I draw a precedence network? To draw a precedence network from a precedence table, you use the following steps. Step 1, you draw a start node towards the left-hand side of your drawing area. From now on, you draw from left to right of the drawing area. So in my tests, what has been consistent? When you've got a question, is it in grid? It's always been like blue grid. In your exam, it's going to be white space. In our culture, Western society, what direction do we read? Left to right. So just form the habit, when you're answering a question where you need to draw a network, you start on the left and extend towards the right. So you draw a start node at the extreme left of your drawing area, and from then on you go to the right. So after you've done step 1, all you've done is put a dot that says start over it. What is step 2? Step 2, you find the tasks or task that has no prerequisites. So that's the dashes in the table. You find the task with no immediate prerequisites, you draw those arrows coming out of the start node. And once you've drawn those arrows, you put nodes at the end of them as well. So step 1, you draw a start node. Step 2, anything that has no prerequisites, you draw it coming out of the start. Step 3 is the repeated one. So after you've done the start and things with no prerequisite, you do this. You identify tasks with prerequisites of the ones that I just drew and draw these coming out of the previous ending node. And you keep doing this over and over again until you draw an arrow that is not a prerequisite for anything. And then you finish with the end node. And you're going to be making stunned mullet face and you'll be like, what the hell? When it's demonstrated, it's fine. I just want to be consistent in the way I operate and go, these are the steps written out, then I'll demonstrate them to you. So you can see they're not too bad. You just get those 4 steps down. Ordinarily, that would go on your cheat sheet, but you don't get one, so you have to try to remember it. The only rule about drawing networks is don't let the tasks cross over. So what you can do is draw a rough one where the tasks are crossing over, you just want them connected, and then when you finish, you can fix it up by having no crossovers, okay? All right, I want to demonstrate these steps because, yeah, you're probably worrying right now, and that's fine. So I want to draw a network out of this. Can someone remind me what step 1 was? What do I do on the left side of my drawing area? Oops, sorry. Identify tasks with prerequisites of the task that I just drew. What did step 1 tell me to do? What's the first thing that I draw towards the left-hand side? Sorry? Node. And what do I label it as? Step 1 done. Step 2, find the task or tasks with no immediate prerequisites. Draw the arrows for these coming out of the start node. So in my table, which task has no prerequisite? So what task is going to come out of the start node? Hey. I'm going to draw it going straight right because there's only one coming out of it, okay? And then what is step 2 say? Draw nodes at the end of any task drawn. I only drew one, so I'm going to put a dot there. So while the steps seem painful, can you see the steps are telling you to do this? Draw a start node, draw anything that has no prerequisite coming out of the start node. Step 3 is the one you do over and over again. Identify tasks with the prerequisite that you just drew. Draw these tasks coming out of the previous ending node. What task did I just draw? Which tasks here have a prerequisite of A? So how many arrows am I going to be drawing coming out of A? 3 of them. Good. So what I suggest you do is fan them out. So I'm going to draw B coming out the top, C going middle because there's 3 of them, and then D coming out the bottom. What do I finish tasks with? A node. What does step 4 say? Repeat 3. So what was 3? Identify tasks with prerequisites are the ones that I just drew. So I just drew B. Which task here requires B? So where am I going to draw E coming out of? Is there anything else that required B? Is there anything else that needs B done? No? Okay. I just drew B, I just drew C. Which task requires C as a prerequisite?
F.
So where's F going to come out of?
C.
That's F done. What does G need? D. So where's G going to come out of? So I've just drawn E, F, and D. I'm going to repeat step 3. I just drew those. Identify tasks with the prerequisites drawn. Oh, sorry, I redid. Sorry, that should be G. What does H require? What are the immediate prerequisites for H?
EFG.
EFG combining currently. They're sort of just hanging out.
Yeah.
So they're all going to come together at the end. So I'm going to have H there, and now you can do a correction. They're not going to mark you down if you cross it out. They just need to make sure that the arrow connections are quite clear. If you've got time in your exam to erase it, do so. I'm going to erase this because it looks a little messy. Is this H fulfilling the requirement of the prerequisites? Are E, F, and G going into H? And then what was the last step? Repeat step 3 until you draw a task, which is not a prerequisite for any task. Is H a prerequisite here at all? So what am I going to draw H connecting to? Finish that task with the end node. So I'm going to draw a little circle or a dot here, and that's going to be the end. So that's an exhaustive version of showing the steps. Okay, I'd like to repeat quickly the top one here to show that it doesn't have to be that painful. I'm going to draw it really small here. So this is my area here, start. Which of the tasks in the making T has no prerequisites? A and C. So what am I going to be drawing coming out of the start? 2 arrows and what labels? A and C. Finish with nodes. Which of the tasks requires A? B. So where am I going to be drawing B coming out of? A. What am I going to be drawing D coming out of? C. What does E require? Are B and D connected right now?
No.
What do they need to do to make E come out? Connect them together so I can erase now so you be more smart about it. So B and D will connect because they're both required for E to be done. What does... what's next? We just did B, D to E. What does F require? Where's that going to come out of? E. I think I stuffed up this. This should say F. F. So then is F is G a prerequisite of anything in the table? So G is going to come out of F and it's going to end. So a faster version of that, okay? Any questions about that process there? Does it, yeah?
Just with the top one, if you go the bottom way to C, at what point do you get the cups though?
Don't worry too much about the project of deciding how you make the tea. I just needed an example for it. What you need to be able to do, is translate this to this. Okay? But I always start off with this because it's like something that you can see it's an overall project that I've broken down into little pieces, all right? But SACE is never going to get you to decide the order of this because it'd be too up in the air. Someone could make it completely different to someone else, right? What you need to be able to do is, can I make this using my 4 steps into this? Any questions about that? Was that reasonable there? Okay. The last thing I need to go through was the idea of a critical path. When you've got a network and you draw it with duration numbers, then certain paths will take longer than others. The critical path through any network is the longest possible path from start to end. Because it's the longest path, it represents the tasks that need to be completed first. So the overall project is completed. They're considered critical. I've done this in blue, but I actually don't think you need to get that down because you just need to find the longest duration path through it. If I've got this network here, how many different ways can I get from start to end? 2, because the arrows determine that I can only go in one direction. So there's 2 possible paths. Path 1 would be A, B, E, F, G. What would path 2 be? Go from the start to the end. What would path 2 be? C, D, and then it combines E, F, G. It's not the greatest example. I'll need to think of a different thing. What would I have to do to find the duration of these paths? Add them together. 15, 25, 35, 45, 50, 60. 60 duration for the top. For the bottom, 20, 120, 130, 145, 155, I believe. So according to my notes above, the critical path is the longest path. Which one is the critical path? A, B, E, F, G or C, D, E, F, G?
First one.
The longest.
Oh.
We want the longest, okay? So the critical path is C, D, E, F, G. So that's the last example to get down. I'll stop the recording there.